All right, what's up? So I'm gonna give you an update on the S10. Everything up here still looks the same. Come to the back of the truck and notice that there's no rear end. So I went ahead and pulled the rear end, and I will show y'all that. This is what the back half looks like on this truck. So they didn't do a bad job on it. It looks pretty decent. I'm happy with it so far. You can see right here, we have the 10 bolt. It is an 8.5 inch rear end. It's got 33 spline axles, a full spool with 373 gears. It's got C-clip eliminators on it. You can see in there. So what started all this is I wanted to add a drive shaft sensor, and if you have a 10 bolt, you know there's nowhere to mount a sensor, so you have to weld something, or some people drill in the webbing and build a bracket off that. I was able to bend the bracket up and just do some welding. It don't look that great because the rear end was still in the truck when I was trying to mount this. But the reason I pulled the rear end is I was noticing that the axle tube was wet from right here, and I ground the paint back and found that the weld is not the greatest. So I went ahead, tried to weld it. With it being in the truck and there being oil in it, it did not want to weld. So I pulled it out. I'm going to clean the axle tubes inside and outside, grind this weld back till I get to good material, and redo this weld. I'm gonna check this side also, because I bet it's the same over there. So that's why the rear end's out. If you're trying to put a drive shaft sensor on a 10 bolt, you can pick up a Low Dollar Motorsports collar. The one I got is, it's hard to see, but it's a 2.25 inch collar. You do have to buff the ends a little bit to get the collar to bolt together, but it's a snug fit and everything seems to work. So just get you a bracket, either bolt something to the side or weld something. You also pick up a sensor from Low Dollar Motorsports. So it's a drive shaft sensor. It's a 10 to 30 volts, so you will have to use 12 volts. It's not a 5 volt sensor. That's the only thing that sucks, but it's a lot cheaper than a 5 volt sensor, about half the price. So ain't no big deal to run 12 volts of that sensor. So yep. So the rear end's out. Gonna clean it up, look over it. The gears look fine. I put these gears in not too long ago. The wear pattern looks perfect. Pretty happy with that. I'm gonna check all the welds, check all the tubes, probably look over all the bearings. This is the shock mount. So it's kind of crude, and that's the anti-roll bar. So I might do something different there if I have time. But the torque converter did ship today, so it should be here in the next week when we get the torque converter in and be ready to put the transmission in. And now we got to get the transmission in and the rear end back in. So I'd like to get it back in the next week or so and have this truck running. But other than that, everything else is the same. Give y'all a look at the back half. So there's where the shocks mount. Truck is dirty back here because I never see this part of the truck, so I'm gonna clean it up before I put the cover back on. You can see the front mounts for the ladder bars, the shocks hanging there, anti-roll bar hanging there. There's my 2 fuel pumps. So yeah, I'll show y'all when I get it back in the truck and get the drive shaft sensor wired up, and we'll see how that works out. I think I'm gonna try to do wheel speed, so I know what the wheel speed is, but I also like to see what drive shaft RPM is. So I'll probably split the signal and do both. I know they'll be the same, but I don't want to have to calculate. I just want it to be in the data log. So I'll show y'all when I get this back in the truck and we'll see how it turns out. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch y'all next time.